Hi everyone, and welcome to Gerad Riester YouTube, where anything worth doing is worth overdoing. First thing I want to do is address the quality of this production. So I know many of you are looking for a high quality media experience, and I just want to reassure you that you've come to the wrong place. This is ad hoc at best, hastily prepared with no script or other writing. I know many of you find that hard to believe based on my monologue, but there you go. I'll get to the meat of the subject today. Today we're talking about Vipers, and specifically why the Eflite 70mm Viper sucks. That's a hot take. Okay, sorry, it's a little clickbaity. Does it suck? Okay, it doesn't suck, but I'm not terribly impressed by it, and I'll get into why that is. So I've got two Vipers that have been flying quite a bit lately. I've got my Hobby King 64mm Viper coming in at a whopping $170 plus receiver, and a receiver in there I've got probably adds $80. So you're still talking $250 roughly. $250 for this with receiver versus this one was $400 with receiver. Now this does have retracts. We'll get into that too, and that is a nice benefit when they work. I do like a lot of things about it, but I'm kind of underwhelmed overall. Before I get into all of that, I want to talk aerodynamics. So, I am not an engineer, aerospace engineer, although I took some engineering courses at the Air Force Academy because they made me. My degree's in history. But I've been a professional pilot for over 20 years, and I've been a pilot basically my whole life, or at least in aviation my whole life. Got my private license at 23, so, and then I've been involved in aviation that whole time. Since basically infancy, when my dad stuck me in the back of one of his planes, so I've had a lot of exposure. So what I want to talk about is an accelerated stall. So many people think that a stall occurs when you get slow. That's a component of it, but it's not exactly, well, it's by definition, it's not what a stall is. An aerodynamic stall occurs when you increase the angle of attack on the plane until it reaches its critical angle of attack. So critical angle of attack is not based on necessarily the pitch angle of the airplane. It's based on the angle between the chord of the wing and the relative wind. So you're flying along, relative wind is coming at the wing, more or less directly. As you fly along and you increase the angle of attack, initially, or increase pitch is what it is. Increased pitch, initially the angle of attack will change, but as you go up, your flight path, depending on your thrust and speed, will change, and your relative wind may end up still being more or less in line with the wing. There is a particular kind of stall called an accelerated stall. So most stalls people think of, you get slow, and what it really is, you get slow, you keep increasing the angle of attack to stop your plane from descending, and then you reach that critical angle of attack, and then it stalls. There are different stall characteristics too, and we'll get into that as well. But, so, accelerated stall is where you're flying along at a given speed that would be above that sort of stall speed, normal stall speed, and you pitch up rapidly. When you pitch up rapidly, what happens is, there's a G onset, your inertia kind of carries you forward, which keeps the relative wind kind of where it is, and your pitch increases, and that allows you to quickly reach that critical angle of attack. Whereas if you pitched up more slowly and gradually, the relative wind would have kind of follow the wing. This is, hugely simplified, and again, I'm not an engineer, but roughly a slower pitch up, with power and speed, even though your pitch angle might be something that would have been exceeding the critical angle of attack when the relative wind was here, now the relative wind might be here. So, but when you do a rapid one, it doesn't have time to, quote, catch up, and you exceed that critical angle of attack quickly. So, in conjunction with that, so you get a stall at a higher speed, depending on the characteristics of the airplane, it can affect things. The other thing is, with the stall characteristics of the airplane, it may just drop the nose when it stalls, or it may drop a wing. Well, what I've come to discover is all the Vipers I've flown, which are just these two, but I'm willing to bet, because they're so different manufacturers, different sizes, different weights, that it might be a Viper characteristic. Love for someone in the know to get on here and correct me or inform me of this, but the two Vipers I've flown are prone to accelerated stalls, extremely prone to accelerated stalls, and they have a very interesting stall characteristic in any stall, but in particular in an accelerated stall, which is they drop a wing. And what I've found is not only do they drop a wing, they roll rapidly. So it doesn't just drop, it rolls rapidly and then rapidly enters a spin. So I've done some maneuvers, because I like to do more extreme maneuvers. This also is a function of the I have a fairly FCG on these planes for a variety of reasons, which, in fairness to the design and the manufacturers, not designed to fly behind the recommended CG. So that admitted and understood. However, it's still a strange characteristic, which is, so I've tried, particularly in the vertical, I find it very interesting. In the vertical, full power, no other control inputs but full up elevator, and it just starts spinning vertically fairly quickly. I mean, it's not like a turn like a drill bit, but it's spinning pretty quickly. It spins, and then eventually it'll stall. It's stalled. It'll fall off and enter more of a conventional spin. And if you release the controls, let the speed come up, you don't need full power, but add power, or you could just let it accelerate depending on your height. With gravity, it'll come out of it, and it comes out of it pretty much on its own. So no stall recovery required. So I do like that characteristic of these planes. Yes, if you stall them, they will spin, but in that they'll come out of the spin very quickly. Now, what really got me thinking, I first discovered that on the Hobby King Viper, trying to do some more extreme maneuvers. And again, fairness, each aircraft has its purpose and its characteristics. Vipers aren't 3D planes, really. They're not designed to do 3D aerobatics, abrupt snap maneuvers. I suppose it's sort of a snap roll-ish type maneuver. It's similar, but it's not a snap roll. So I'm flying them outside of the envelope they were designed to fly in. So again, I want to be very clear. That's not my criticism of the Viper, or of the Eflite Viper. I'm not criticizing the Hobby King Viper. They have the same characteristics, but some things to watch for, in a word of warning. In both of these cases, I induced that maneuver on land and go arounds, and what happened was my faithful companion here, Roku, is talking to me right now. Hi, buddy. Yeah, he's a good boy. So in both cases, I pulled up, I had extreme rates on the elevator. So 150 travel, 125 rate with 100 expo. And I pulled up too aggressively on the go around, and in both cases, they accelerated stalled on me. The E-Flight Viper managed to perform a complete barrel roll. So I'm not saying an aileron roll. People confuse these a lot. An aileron roll is it rolls about its axis using ailerons. A barrel roll is where the aircraft actually sort of it looks like it's following the inside. Oh, hit that on the ceiling. Oh, good. I broke it. That's easily fixed. Like it's following the inside of a barrel, or the outside, I guess. Sort of like that. So, and just to reassure everybody, this is just where it glues on. Just needs a little bit more glue. So, no big deal. It's on me for not gluing it more stoutly. So, the Hobby King Viper, and actually ended up, doing some damage, and ended up having to repair it. Also found out some interesting things about it through that process and its construction, which I want to get into, and this gets into more of why I'm not a fan. I do like it. It flies very smooth. It flies like it's on rails, flying around normal speeds, but I'm not a big fan of its low speed handling. And then there's so the engineering on it is pretty good, but there's a little bit of a fit and finish issue here and there. And actually, I mean, I would maybe call it packaging. So we'll get into the Eflite. So it smacked, it cracked right here. I repaired that, cracked the wood where the battery goes. The nose gear was sort of partly retracted, and it wouldn't go in and out. I'll get into the nose gear too, because it's had issues from day one without ever having a crash. So actually on my maiden flight, the packaging of the electronics posed an issue for me. So I had mentioned on the unboxing and build that they don't give you much of a servo wire coming out of the wing and or coming out of the receiver, and they had it routed through this keeper. The keeper is right here. They had it routed through this. It's a pretty solid metal piece. It's probably for CG and ballast as well. But they had a lot of the wires routed through there, and it made them hard to get them connected. And what ended up happening is that I didn't quite get one of the flap leads. There's 2 leads, one for each flap, connected. And apparently when I was putting the battery in or something, one of them pulled loose. So I go to do my maiden. I normally take off with jets with the flaps and takeoff setting. It's optional for these, but for something like the 90mm Freewing F-16, the one I have, and I'm at 4,500 feet MSL, and with the DA, of course, the hotter day is much higher. It really needs flaps to kind of get off the runway quickly. This doesn't, but I like using them quicker off the ground and that kind of thing. Took off with flaps. Well, bad on me. I didn't do a good thorough check of my control surfaces. Got complacent. One flap was deployed, one wasn't. So it was banking hard on the maiden. I got it trimmed out. And then I realized that I had the flaps still extended. So I retracted the flaps. It rolled hard the other way and I almost lost it. So not checking's on me. Not getting the lead connected tightly is on me. Their packaging of the electronics within this airframe is on them, and it helps set me up for failure. So I didn't like that, but I don't fully blame them. I'm definitely partly at fault. The nose wheel has never worked well from day one. First few flights, the maiden flight, I didn't retract the gear, so it didn't notice. Next couple of flights, it would retract, but it wouldn't extend. So I had to do a couple of landings with the nose gear retracted. And the other thing is, no matter how far back I push the battery, and no matter what speed I'm going, it's difficult to hold the nose off on landing like I like to do. So not necessarily an issue, but I would prefer to be able to do that. So drug the nose pretty bad. Now the gear won't, or the nose gear won't fully retract. So it'll retract some, but not all the way. I pulled a little bit of plastic off around there. And so, a couple of things there. And then my latest trip out to the field, which is actually my sort of re-maiden after the crash, I went to take off. I had a Horizon 100C 6-cell battery. See if this is the 100C. Yeah. 100C. And fully charged. I checked it before and then I checked it after. Took off and I immediately started getting the low voltage warning because of course this is a smart battery with a Horizon airplane. So on my transmitter I got low voltage warnings. Now I understand full power sometimes you may get that, but it initially on takeoff or shortly after takeoff, and then intermittently, and then I heard the motor pulsing, which is a clear sign that you're not getting enough juice going through the motor. So I got it around. I sort of brought in a little too fast, botched the landing. Started to go around, and then I thought I didn't know if it would even keep running or not, so just chopped the power and let it land in a bush. It was fine. It was in great shape, but brand new battery, pretty much brand new airplane, and there's some disconnect, not physical, but some sort of electronic issue between the two. Got it back, checked the battery voltage. It was still over 4 volts per cell or more. So I flew it again with the 30C pack, also a Horizon Smart Pack. Flew great with that one. So I'm not sure if it's getting too many volts or too much current. I don't know. That doesn't seem likely, but it flew good on the 30C. I flew again on 30C, so I flew it twice on the 30C that day. And then I went to test it out with the 100C on the bench out at the field, and I noticed that when I throttled up, I got an elevator wiggle. The stick for the throttle is not the same stick for the elevator, so it's not like I was accidentally moving it. If I saw the rudder move, I might think that was me. I tried a few times and it did it. I rerouted all my cables and got them as far away from the ESC, the battery wire, basically as possible, but it was still doing it, and I opted not to fly it again due to that until I figure it out. So that's something. I had a cheap gas SBOC that would have a similar problem. I assume it was the ignition inducing a current in the servos. This, it can happen, it shouldn't happen, and there's really nowhere else to put this stuff. In fact, the elevator servo wires run up the same tunnel as the ESC. So I have a problem with that. I definitely think that's a design problem. I don't know if anyone else has had that problem. I don't know if it's related to the other problem I had, but I don't like it. So overall, for what you pay for it, the plane has too many issues for my liking. I would expect paying a premium price for what I would consider a premium brand that I get premium quality, and I don't feel like I've gotten that with this one. Not asking Horizon to do anything other than take a look at what they're doing and hopefully increase quality. My personal perception, and bear in mind I'm almost 50, is that within the hobby, Horizon is still a bit stodgy, old school, not up with the times, my opinion. I said it before and I'll say it again. I love the Timbers. They're absolutely fantastic airplanes. In fact, I think those are the only other Horizon planes I've had. So, food for thought. If I had to do it over, I would buy a different plane. I actually started looking, and I might get like the Freewing F-16 and 70mm, which would be with the receiver roughly the same price, and just I feel like I'll probably get more bang for my buck with that, and do a comparison. We'll see. You may have that coming down the road. Again, this is not a bash Horizon thing. This is my own personal experience. I tend to like Horizon, but I'm unimpressed. So now I'm going to play a few videos from my time out of the field. I'll show the video where of the maiden. Luckily I had somebody filming where I almost lost this, and then a couple other videos, video of the of both Vipers flying, and also I got some of the Freewing F-16, but I'll do a video on that one on its own and on a later video. Said video twice. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your patience. I joked about the quality of my videos. That's a joke. I am working on improving it, and I will improve it. Hopefully this was a bit smoother than my last one. I'm learning as I go. But I hope I brought you some good information. You found it entertaining. Stay tuned on this video for some field video. And thanks for showing up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and have a wonderful day. Again, don't forget, at Gerad Riester YouTube, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, except for maybe video production. Thanks. Okay, so I forgot that I already showed you the maiden flight on the Eflite Viper 70. So here is the maiden flight on the Freewing F-4 90mm 8S. It was a good flight, nose heavy with the recommended batteries, and I'll talk about that more in a later video. But I would recommend lighter. I had two Admiral 5000s in there, and it was real nose heavy. I had almost all the nose up trim was required to keep it level. So here it is taxiing out, and I'll show you the whole flight. Okay, everybody, welcome to Gerad Riester YouTube, where anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Right now we've got the Freewing 90mm 8S F4D Phantom. Phantom's always been one of my favorite planes. I've been looking at this plane for a long time, hoping for a good flight today. I'm not sure. Feels based on the CG that they've got, I couldn't get it to balance much more than right at the dot with the batteries all the way back. So might be a touch nose heavy. So I'm actually going to take off with landing flaps, which is unusual for me. I just make sure we get it off in the runway provided. Okay, so we got 3 minutes on the clock, and here we go. Yeah, it's a little wobbly.
Gear up. Take off flaps. Time remaining 1 minute.
All right, better. Yeah, we're gonna want to put in some elevator for the flaps. All right. It's really stable. Very stable, very nice. 30 seconds left on the clock, but that's with definitely with a conservative amount of battery.
Expired. Braking.
Almost exactly like my F-16 landing. Okay, we got on the ground safely. Too fast. I can definitely slow it down some more. A couple of adjustments needed for sure. It needed a lot of nose up trim. Shoot, nearly all nose up trim. So we'll work on that. But let's see how she did. I'll just take you with me this time. We'll walk over the walk of shame. Walk of shame where you have to go retrieve your airplane instead of taxiing it back. But I think we're good. So plenty of power, felt good in the air. A little wobbly initially on takeoff. I thought maybe the CG was too far back, but it wasn't. I wouldn't take off with landing flaps again. Not necessary to do so. Hopefully the nose wheel's stouter on this airplane than on the F-16. Looks good. Looks like we got everything attached still. No damage. No bent stuff. Yeah, sure did need a lot of trim. A lot of trim for that. Yeah, it was way down there. Ooh, that's a lot of trim. I assume that's because of the nose heaviness. So we'll see if we can get balanced a little further back. But other than that, good flight. Thanks for watching, and more to follow. As opposed to the Viper, at least the Eflite Viper 70, actually both Vipers, the Freewing F-16 90mm is not prone to accelerated stalls. In fact, I've been able to yank and bank it with all kinds of elevator input, and it's shown no tendency whatsoever. I don't know that it would accelerated stall or stall in that way. It flies really good, and here I'm gonna in a minute demonstrate how not to land it. And what I did wrong is it was slow enough in that case, but I didn't flare at all, and I needed to add just a little bit of power at the end. So with this plane, the best way to do it is to slow it down and then fly your approach slow with power, and then a little flare. You don't need to add power at the end. I just needed to because I didn't have any in there. But yeah, it flies really nice. Here's one approach, decent approach, but it was a little faster than I like to be. Ended up being a better approach than the one I actually landed out of. And here, I smack it. There was no flare at all, and then some part. So you want to slow it down, but keep some power on, so you get it slowed. Yeah, I'm angling in. Gear up. Get the drag out of there. Take off flaps, the best kind of balance between lift and drag, and gear back down. I've been doing that, like angling final. We don't want to do that. All right, this will be a full stop if it's a good landing. So we know it flies good slow. So we get slowed down. Slow down. We're gonna turn, not quite so tight this time. So it's not angling. There we go. We got it. Just add in a little thrust. I had a great day at the field overall. I got a bunch of flights, got a maiden in the bag on the Freewing F-4. It flew great, just need to figure out the CG. either lighter batteries or move them further back. The F-16 flew really well, as it always did. Got 4 good flights on it. You got to see the worst of my 4 landings, so congratulations on that. But yeah, really enjoy flying it. As always, like, subscribe, ring the bell, and remember, at Gerad Riester YouTube, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.